another video of 31 Days of Halloween via Spooktober. I'm Brittany.
I'm Steven.
And we are here to do the video that our entire series this month was formed around. We have been leading up doing all of the previous Halloween movies. If you haven't seen any of them, I will link the playlist if you want to go check all of them out. But there were 10 movies before this one, and we watched all of them and we reviewed all of them. So I think at this point we know what we're talking about when we talk about Halloween movies. And today, we're finally here to talk about the new Halloween, which has the same title as the original, which is confusing.
Yes, which all the titles are kind of a mess across the board of this series.
That's not the only thing that's a mess about the series.
But in following with the rest of the series, the chronology is kind of a mess. This one actually ignores 9 of the previous Halloween films, and so it's just from the original Halloween to this one, and we pick back up with Laurie Strode, played again by Jamie Lee Curtis, and dealing with Michael Myers 40 years after the fact as he escapes and comes for her family one more time.
This is a spoiler-free review, so we're not giving out any plot details. However, we do like to talk about the plot in general, how did it go, the general structure, that kind of thing. I think the plot for this one was pretty typical for a horror slasher Halloween movie, like franchise movie. I don't think that there was anything particularly new and fresh with the plot. Like, there were intricacies within the plot that were like different and new, like some of the scares, things like that. But like the pacing of the plot and the points that the plot hits on, I think was pretty typical.
Yeah, I don't feel like it did anything particularly special. I think it's better than some of the plots of the Halloween films, because I think this one kept to its roots of the basic Michael escapes, Michael want to stab, and particularly stab Laurie Strode. But speaking of Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, once again, is the strongest part of this film, and every Halloween film she's in, I think she brings the most charisma to the role. I think Laurie Strode is just a character she can really fall into because she's played her so much throughout the years.
We did have some new family dynamics with Laurie in this movie. In previous movies, we have had some family ties with her, especially with children. And in this one, we have similar things, but of course it ignores the previous children. They don't exist. She just has her current child and then her grandchild. And so it's kind of this trio of kick-ass ladies. And so that was an interesting element to add to this film, and it was one I mostly enjoyed. And of course, we have the title character, Michael Myers. I think that he was pretty good in this. I will say that there were less of the slow scares, like the lurking in the background. There was some of it, but it wasn't quite to the level that I loved in the very original one. Besides that, I think he was pretty good. I think the mask was one of the better iterations of the mask. I personally like the reboots mask more than this one a little bit. It's the only thing I like about the reboots. But you liked this mask better.
Yeah, I like this mask quite a bit. I think it shows like the age, the mask, and it looks creepy on him. There's a surprising amount of Michael Myers in this film without a mask.
True, but you don't see his face.
Not fully, but you get some good looks sometimes. It was pretty
the partial profile.
Interesting. I felt like he was pretty ominous. I would say in particular there was one shot, I don't think this is a spoiler, after his escape, and there was a shot that tracked him for a decent amount of time, and I actually quite enjoyed that one. I thought that was probably the most fun shot of the film. But I think his character brings like that presence that he consistently, when he's there, you're like, oh goodness.
I think in this one, because they deviated a lot from previous films and some of the lore they set up around Michael, there were certain things that happened with his character in this film that I wasn't expecting. Like, he was more on just a general murderous rampage, whereas the more you get into the Halloween series, you understand his focus and who exactly he wants to go after, and that wasn't really an element in this one. Of course, he's still going after Laurie, but like besides that, he's just like, ooh, I'll pop in here and do this, and I'll pop in there and do that, which isn't really an element from the originals, at least the first few. I think later on in the series it's definitely an element, but
I felt like even in the original, it was pretty clear where he was going and why Laurie got chosen and why he focused in on that, and kind of his angle and his goal the entire film. Whereas I feel like that was lost a little bit in this film until later on.
I feel like there were a few death scenes that were just there for the scare factor or the like creepy factor, and it's like, why that person? Why there? That makes no sense. Why would he just be like, that one I'm gonna go do this with? when it was just like not in his way or anything like that. I don't know, it was a little confusing to me.
I do think in some areas that this film struggles, and I think the biggest problem is it seems like there's a lot of half-baked ideas put into this film. I think when you have such a popular franchise that you're trying to follow up after years of that franchise being dead, there's so much you want to cram in there, and it felt like sometimes they tried to do that, and there was several subplots that weren't fully fleshed out, and I don't think that they committed as much as they probably should have to the dynamic between Laurie and Michael, and particularly like Laurie's development through that, and following through on all those items that they tease at. Some of them were kind of just left to just like float there and nothing came of them.
I also feel like there were a couple scenes, especially with certain like side characters and things, where they did all these setup with these side characters just so someone could lose a phone and have an excuse for not knowing what was going on. Like, we had like 20 minutes of film just to set up that one little tidbit. And to set up like one death.
Yeah.
For funsies.
Yeah, there are several things in this film that felt like the script was a little bloated in those moments, because in order to achieve a particular goal for their storytelling, they wrote like 5 scenes just to get there, which was a little unnecessary and felt like padding for a movie that you probably could have filled with more substantial stuff.
Of course, this is a horror movie, so I think like the creepy factor, the scare factor is really important in this aspect. I would say the original was very scary to me, even, you know, like 40 years later that it's been done. I think that it still holds its malice and suspense really well, and also the actual scary parts. I honestly wasn't that scared in like many of these scenes in this movie, because the big ones they put in the trailer. Like, the 2 big things that probably would have freaked me the F out were in the trailer. And so it's really a bummer because of that. And I also feel like, I don't know, it just didn't... Maybe it's because we watched all of these other ones, so I'm just like Michael Myers out. I'm not sure, but it felt more suspenseful than scary to me, and even the suspenseful didn't give me too much feeling of dread.
If you've watched our previous reviews, an area that a lot of the Halloween movies struggle with is with their music and their score. A lot of times it undermines the movie. I definitely did not feel that with this one. I actually felt like the score hit a good balance between like calling back to the originals and even using the original themes but updating them in a way where they felt fresh and kind of going with the mood of the film.
I really enjoyed the score. I think it's the best one out of the franchise so far. I think John Carpenter did a wonderful job on it, and it struck the right balance of nostalgia and, you know, creepy suspense feeling. It was a really well done score.
It took him 40 years, but he finally figured out how to score a movie properly, because some of those earlier ones were a struggle.
Another small tidbit I really enjoyed about this film was the opening credits. In the original films, we have some aspect of a pumpkin during the opening credits. You know, sometimes it's just chilling in the background. Sometimes it's like getting slowly closer. I think, is it number 4 where it's like the lines, like or was that number 3? I don't know. There's one where it like slowly like zooms out and you realize you've been staring at like a weird... Anyways, pumpkins are a thing. And this one, I really liked it because it started with a pumpkin that had decomposed and they reverse time-lapsed it. And I don't know, I just really enjoy that. I thought it was a really cool thing. Like, ooh, it's coming back from the grave. Like, I don't know. I thought it was a cool touch.
I do think there's some examples where, while there were some half-baked ideas in this film, there was also some really cool ideas as well.
Overall, I think we both enjoyed this film, but it fell a little short of our expectations. I think that for a Halloween franchise movie, I think this is one of the best, and you'll find out where it falls on our ranking list tomorrow. It will be up then. But for an overall horror movie, I don't think this is one of the better ones. It's definitely not one of my favorites out of the whole horror genre. But in the grand scheme of Halloween, I think it was very good.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it still carried some of the like design flaws that the Halloween series carries, between not necessarily willing to personalize Michael Myers and the danger enough, and some of the ideas falling flat throughout and not following through with a very cohesive like plot structure. I think still follows this film. So while it's still fun and enjoyable, it falls short of like some straight up horror masterpieces that we've been getting in the past several years. I feel like we've had like a huge resurgence of strong horror movies, and so sometimes it can't quite hold up to some of those. But as always, we want to know what you guys thought about the film, so leave a comment down below letting us know if you've seen it, what you thought, or if our review convinced you to go see it or to not go see it. Let us know, and leave a like on this video. We really appreciate your support. It's been such a fun journey for the 31 Days of Halloween, and we still have more videos to come, even though we finished with the Halloween series. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for those, and we'll see you guys next time.